I'm Renee Montaigne. Talks resume today between the United Auto Workers Union and General Motors at striking plants in Flint, Michigan. The strikes, now in their 7th week, have virtually shut down GM's production in North America and have cost the company over $1.2 billion. With the possibility of a new strike later this week at GM's Saturn plant in Tennessee, both sides are describing the negotiations with words not popular in the car business: stalled, stuck, broken down. We wanted to find out more about what goes on in the rooms where, during any strike, union representatives can haggle with management for hours, sometimes days. We talked with two people who've sat at the negotiating table many times before, although never across from each other. Gerald Myers was the CEO of the American Motors Corporation in the late 1970s and early 80s. Doug Frazier headed the United Auto Workers during that same period. Doug Frazier says that bleary-eyed negotiators often benefit from working through the night.
When your adrenaline is flowing, you don't feel tired at all. Momentum is very important in negotiations. And if you're striving toward a settlement and things are sort of coming together, it's a mistake to leave the bargaining table for even 8 hours. People get a little rest and they say, well, maybe we move too fast. Once you get moving toward a settlement, you should not move.
In fact, it's exciting. As you see movement, you just feel like you can go. It's when things break down. It's when you start hassling over little things that you can get very tired very quickly. But when it's moving, you can go on for a long period of time, even days.
Jerry Myers, as management, when you do go on for days and days, and in the case of General Motors, weeks and weeks, do you start getting sick of each other? Not just the people on the other side of the table, but your own selves?
In my experience, you tend to come together. You tend to feel as if like you're in a foxhole, that you have buddies and you have people who are working with you and against you, but you get to know them so well. I found I tended to get closer and to like them better.
Doug Frazier?
You can have, and you do have, labor relations where either one side or the other, or maybe both, lack trust of each other, and you live with it, but it makes it for a very rocky road in negotiations. So much simpler. There's enough natural disagreements. There's absolute conflicts. How do you divide up the economic pie? Our union's philosophy, one of the easiest way to do it is you bake a larger pie, and you can't distribute wealth unless you create wealth. So those are natural arguments, but it makes it so much easier to reach an agreement when you have the relationship where people give their word and keep their word.
Do the sides start joking around at any point?
Humor is sort of a release valve. In nearly every negotiations, you have some people on the company side and the union side who are very witty, very humorous, and oftentimes that serves to break the tension.
Well, I found that humor in difficult negotiations is a very rare commodity. It seems to me, in just about each negotiation, and all of them that I've been in, there are one or two firebrands. There are individuals who are extremists. There are. I can remember a negotiation in Wisconsin where the president of the union in Kenosha he was implacable. It was incredible. He seemed to be totally out of control of the National. Everything he said, like he breathed fire. We just couldn't make any sense out of it, and as a result, we went downhill, and he went downhill, and it was a terrible negotiation.
I've talked to that local president. He said the same about the company.
So there you go.
Now, you have, different personalities. And from the union's point of view, we don't have the continuity of negotiators that the company has. The company negotiators are there year after year after year. The union negotiators are usually elected officials, and some get defeated in elections. Some are appointed to the international union, so we have much more turnover than do the company negotiators.
That's a very good point. The union is, of course, a political organization and democratic in its foundations. The company is a command and control situation, and orders are given and people follow orders.
I'm curious about something else, which is what happens when there's disagreement amongst yourselves, that is, on the union team or on the corporate side.
I think we have more disagreement on the union side because of the nature of our organization. We're democratic in structure, as Jerry pointed out. you know, I was president of the International Union, but a little committeeman or steward could raise hell with me and disagree with me, and I couldn't do anything about it except persuade him. And we have fierce discussions on the union side.
I remember when we had a caucus or moving off into our own corners, the union versus the company. We had not much to talk about the company. We know who was the boss, and we listened and we argued a bit, but then we finally settled down. Then we walked by the union caucus room, and I mean the expletives and the shouting and the screaming, we couldn't believe it. You know, what kind of an organization is this? But they would emerge, you know, red-faced, and come back to the bargaining table, and they would try not to show that disagreement, but we wondered, what had they just been through?
That's when humor comes in handy, I can tell you.
After it's all over, when, and we presume in every strike, a settlement is finally reached. Before the cameras come in, before the press pours in, before you pour out, what happens in that room? Is it, you know, crack open a bottle of champagne?
No, not that, but I think when, overwhelmingly, when you reach an agreement, it's because both sides agree. Most times, both sides are relatively happy and satisfied, and so there's a feeling of good cheer. And there's exceptions to that. Again, I remember in Chrysler, and then 79 and 80 and 81, where we had to make these horrible sacrifices in terms of wages and pensions because Chrysler was on the brink of bankruptcy. When we made those agreements, there's a feeling of depression is what it was.
Yeah, I think the end of the negotiation, and you do have an agreement at that point, both sides come forward and must come forward from their own constituency point of view and say, this was a win-win situation. But in the back rooms, both of them are pretty unhappy that they lost a whole lot of what they wanted. Normally, at the end, they've been in the final negotiation for what might be 3 or 4 days, and they're totally drained. They fall over into a stupor, to bed, or wherever they go, and hope they don't have to do this again very soon.
I always had a couple of beers. That's helpful because, you know, even at that point, as I said before, the adrenaline is flowing and you can't slow down.
So we're not really talking about hoisting beers together here most of the time.
No, I don't see this.
I don't remember that. There might be negotiations where that occurs, but that's sort of not our tradition.
It's not kiss and make up by any means.
However, you have to get over it. You have, because it's a continuing relationship, and no matter how angry each side with each other, you have to live with each other in the days, the months, and the years ahead.
Doug Frazier was president of the United Auto Workers in the late 1970s and early 80s. Gerald Myers was CEO at American Motors Corporation during the same period. Both of them now teach labor and business courses, Doug Frazier at Wayne State University and Jerry Myers at the University of Michigan.